welcome to my vlog. I'm going to be talking about Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall. It's an awesome video of a concert they had on their tour in 1979, and I thought it was super awesome, so here I am to talk about it. So the aspects of like music are like sound, behavior, and concept. I found a lot of good stuff from my interview and from researching this. So to start, there's a serious mood going on in the video, like from the get-go, because it's very dark, you know. It's like it's giving like mysterious vibes, and it's strange because the serious mood is kind of destroyed by the performers smiling like as a practice. They have like this crazy dark thing going on in the background, and then there they are, they're just like dark sarcasm, you know, and it's like, whoa, like that's automatically off-putting. As for like the clothes they're wearing, some people have like extravagant concert outfits, you know, in like this modern age, and honestly in their time too. The casual attire that they were wearing, it like reminds us that the point is the music. Nobody else really does it like Pink Floyd. They're both signatures for the band, and I think it was important to them that they're portrayed as more messengers, their music. The audience engagement with this song is like very enforcing of the rebellious energy and like the resistance when they're like singing along with the choir. It's like very defiant, and it's like a collective resistance type with like a call and response, like when Roger's like, we don't need no education, and then the choir like, we don't need no thought control, and like the audience also sings those lines in like call and response type thing. Also like the general crowd for Pink Floyd, which was the case in the 70s, and also I think it carries till now to an extent. Counterculture was like a big part of their music and the crowd that was drawn to it, and yeah, it's just kind of like a societal critique by that kind of defiance. So as for like the sound of the piece, they use a lot of interesting like instrumentation that is like not your typical like clocks, like gongs, like the helicopter in the beginning of this song, and then like in the video there's these like searchlight looking spotlights that go around the stage and like over the audience. And I feel like as O'Brien said in my interview with Mr. Matthew O'Brien himself, he thinks it gives an impression of like English history's fascism and surveillance sensation, if you will, of like being watched or chased. As for like more on the interview with O'Brien, who is, by the way, Vice President of Business and Legal Affairs for record labels, publishers, and production companies, alumni, and my professor for music business. So yeah, Pink Floyd is like one of his top bands for sure, so he's a good person to talk to about this. And he was telling me how he went to visit their sound engineer Alan Parsons in his castle in England, and I thought that was super cool. He also pointed out like the composition of the piece with like the use of a threatening rebellious bass line and intro and vocals, and then a different happy like wistful hopeful kind of guitar solo. Again, it's that like clash of irony, like a juxtaposition between the ominous quality versus the whimsical one. And there's also like a loud scream like right before they start saying the chorus. He broke down the concept. We talked about like British literature from like the 1800s to 1900s, specifically Charles Dickens. He was telling me how the involvement of kids on stage is very reminiscent of that, like Oliver Twist, things like that. It was a time in industrial Europe when child labor was not uncommon, so it does make sense. There were like a lot of orphanages, you know, stuff like that.
Always on the same things that the wall is commenting on, and this whole involvement of children.
It starts off with just like the vocalists, and then the children's choir comes in, and they're like illuminated on stage with the bright light on them. Everything else is dark, and it kind of gives you a taste of that English history feel. it's very notable that Bob Ezrin, who was the producer and the engineer of Another Brick in the Wall, he featured like children's voices in his other works as well. Like it was a signature thing for him. For example, the Alice Cooper song School's Out, he was the sound engineer, like producer guy for that. I also found a journal that I went through my research about the Dickens tie-in, and the quote from that: "Perhaps the Dickens stories have become so much a part of the British subconscious there needn't be an overt influence." So it's kind of just in their blood. And that same like air of revolt is definitely present in School's Out as well, because you know. But yeah, this piece, this video, this concert, Pink Floyd, which by the way, Pink Floyd feature right here, Pink Floyd poster. It's a very good demonstration for how music can be analyzed and emphasized as sound, behavior, and concept. That was my vlog. Word.